Okay, wow. Season 2 of The Diplomat.
It really just picks up like right where season 1 left off.
Yeah, the cliffhanger
Yeah.
with the car bomb. Like, season 2 doesn't waste any time with the aftermath.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, like, stopping wars anymore.
No, it really isn't.
It's about, like, the personal toll.
It's like they're really taking this idea of like the personal is political
Right.
to a whole other level.
Yeah, and we see that with Kate, like, really grappling with
Absolutely.
the emotional fallout from it.
You know, she's dealing with the trauma and the grief and the vulnerability.
Yeah, and Kerry Russell just plays it
Yeah.
brilliantly. Like, you could just feel the weight
Yes. You can feel the weight of everything.
of what she's carrying.
Absolutely. And it makes her more relatable.
Right.
You know, and even if most of us are never going to experience that world,
Right.
it's still a reminder that these are people in these positions
Yeah.
who have fears and anxieties just like the rest of us.
Well, absolutely. Okay, so speaking of powerful people, let's talk about the arrival of Vice President Grace Penn, played by
Oh, yes.
the amazing Allison Janney.
It's a power move from the second she steps on screen,
Right.
you know, and Janie brings that signature wit and authority.
Yes.
But there's also like a steely undercurrent.
Uh,
Like she's not someone to be underestimated.
no, she's not. And, sources are hinting that her relationship with Kate is going to be like a major highlight
I think so.
of this season. And apparently there's this one scene where Grace criticizes Kate's appearance
Interesting.
and her somewhat unconventional approach to diplomacy,
Yeah.
which kind of right away sets up this rivalry between them.
Well, and it kind of goes back to that idea that women in leadership positions are under this constant scrutiny.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, about their appearance and the pressure to conform to certain expectations.
Like, are women judged more harshly
I think it's a great question.
than men for their, style choices, even at the highest levels of government?
Yeah, it makes you think.
It does. It really does. Okay. But it's not just Grace and Kate vying for power on, like, the world stage.
Right.
Right?
It's not just that.
The show also dives deeper into Kate and Hal's marriage.
Absolutely, because remember, that was already pretty complicated. In
Complicated.
season 1,
Yeah.
you know, with his own ambitions often clashing with hers.
Right.
But season 2 takes it a step further.
Yeah.
And there are some deep-seated resentments and secrets
Oh, yeah.
that threaten to really tear them apart.
Yeah, the sources are saying that the bombing has, like, really shaken their foundation and, like, forced them to confront some uncomfortable truths
Absolutely.
about their past and why they're even together. There's a scene where Hal actually punches Kate,
Oh, wow.
which is, like, shocking to see.
Yeah.
But it kind of speaks to, like, the level of frustration
Yeah.
and anger that's, like, bubbling under the surface.
Well, and violence is never the answer, but
Of course not.
that scene is a powerful illustration of how trauma can manifest in unexpected ways.
Absolutely. It's not just about, like, the physical scars.
Yo.
It's about the emotional wounds
The emotional wounds run so much deeper.
that run much deeper. Yeah. And it makes you think, like, is Hal
Right.
really being driven by, like, genuine concern for Kate? Or is it all about his ego
Yeah.
and his, like, desire to be in control?
That's the question, isn't it?
It really is.
That's going to linger, I think, throughout the season.
Yeah,
And it adds a whole other layer to their relationship.
it does. It's like, are they a true partnership or are they ultimately rivals,
Yeah.
even within their own marriage?
Yeah.
It's like they're playing this constant game of chess,
Exactly.
trying to, like, anticipate each other's next move.
Yeah.
Speaking of chess, the show isn't just about the Weilers.
No, it's not.
We also see more of the UK Foreign Secretary, Austin Dennison,
Yes.
and the CIA station chief, Idra Park.
Their roles become even more crucial in this season. Dennison, in particular, faces this crisis of conscience as he kind of grows disillusioned with the political maneuvering, you know, within his own government.
Right.
And it's this classic case of idealism versus pragmatism.
Right.
Can he hold on to his principles
Yeah.
in a world that requires compromise?
Right.
Or will he have to make a deal with the devil to achieve his goals?
And that's a question that resonates far beyond the world of The Diplomat, right?
Of course, how many times have we seen that play out in the real world?
Like, how many times have we seen politicians, like, grapple with those same ethical dilemmas,
All the time.
weighing the greater good against their own personal beliefs?
Absolutely. It's a constant tension, and the show, I think, captures it beautifully.
It does.
Dennison's storyline really reminds us that even those who strive to do good
Yeah.
can get corrupted by the system or forced to make choices they never thought they'd have to make.
Totally. Okay, what about Idra?
What about her?
What's her story?
Her loyalty to the CIA is really tested.
Yeah.
You know, like never before. She's caught between, following orders
Right.
and doing what she believes is right.
Especially when it comes to protecting Kate.
Especially when it comes to protecting Kate.
Yeah, and it's interesting how they're portraying the CIA not just as this like shadowy organization,
Right.
but like as a group of individuals wrestling with their own
Exactly.
moral compasses.
It humanizes the intelligence community in a way that we don't often see.
Right.
These aren't just faceless agents carrying out missions.
Right.
These are people who are grappling with the consequences of their actions.
Right.
And the impact those actions have on others.
Yeah, and sometimes they have to make tough calls that blur the lines between right and wrong.
Absolutely. Especially when the stakes are so high.
Especially when the stakes are so high, right? And it makes you wonder,
what would you do?
Yeah, what compromises would you be willing to make if you were in their shoes?
It's a great question.
It is. It really is. And I think that just speaks to the show's ability to really engage viewers.
Absolutely.
On a deeper level.
It's not just about the political drama and the suspense. It's about the human stories at the heart of it all.
Yeah.
And the moral dilemmas that we all face
Yeah.
in our own lives, even if they're not on this global scale.
Absolutely.
It's what makes it so compelling, right? It's not just this political thriller. It's a character-driven drama that really digs into these human relationships.
And those relationships get so much more tangled and like intense.
Oh, yeah.
In season 2, especially when it comes to the like aftermath of that bombing. And we see how like really struggling with PTSD and survivor's guilt.
Oh, for sure.
Which adds this whole other layer of vulnerability to his character.
He's haunted by what happened and he lashes out at Kate. Makes reckless decisions.
Right.
And even tries to manipulate situations to try to get back some control.
Right. And the sources are saying that there's this scene where he actually meets with Margaret Roylin.
Interesting.
The one who was revealed to be behind that attack on the British aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, why would he do that?
That's a risky move.
Is he going rogue?
But remember, Hal has his own ambitions.
Right.
And he's not afraid to operate in the shadows to get what he wants.
Yeah.
Maybe he sees Roylin as someone who can help him advance his own agenda.
Even if it means going against what Kate wants.
Even if it means going against Kate.
Yeah. Which adds another layer of complexity.
Yeah.
To their relationship.
For sure.
And it really raises that question, like, can they ever really trust?
Can they trust each other?
Each other. It's a great question.
But can we talk about Margaret Roylin?
Oh, my God.
Because she's basically like this real-life Machiavellian mastermind. Sure.
Like orchestrating an international incident.
It's a brilliant strategy.
Just to prevent Scotland from gaining independence.
If you can call it that.
Right.
I mean, it's ruthless.
Yeah.
But it is brilliant.
It speaks to the show's willingness to explore, like, the darker side of politics.
Yeah.
The manipulation.
Right, like the backroom deals and like the willingness to sacrifice anything for power.
Roylin is a fascinating character.
She is.
Because she really represents that cynical view.
Right.
That the ends justify the means.
Even if it means like violence and deception.
Even if it means that.
It's like a sobering reminder that there are people out there who operate with zero moral compass.
No moral compass.
And they'll exploit any situation to their advantage.
To their advantage.
And it makes you wonder if those are the kinds of people
it does make you wonder.
Who like rise to the top in the world of politics.
Well, it's a question the show doesn't shy away from.
And that's part of what makes it so thought-provoking.
Right.
It forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about the nature of power and the people who have it.
And the people who wield it. Yeah.
And it's not just about the big picture.
Right.
It's also about how these events affect people on a personal level.
Like, remember poor Stuart?
Oh, gosh.
Oak's deputy who was seriously injured in the bombing?
Yeah.
Well, season 2 doesn't just gloss over that trauma that he experienced.
Not at all.
We see him struggling with, like, physical and psychological scars.
Yeah.
Battling flashbacks and nightmares and just grappling with the emotional fallout.
It's a really realistic portrayal of PTSD.
It is.
And it adds this human dimension.
It does.
To the story that's often missing from these kinds of political thrillers.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that these aren't just like abstract events happening on some like global stage. Yeah. They have real consequences for real people.
Exactly.
And it makes you empathize with these characters.
You do.
Even more.
Yeah.
Even the ones who are making choices that are kind of morally questionable.
It raises important questions, too, about how we support people who've been traumatized by violence, both in the military and in civilian life.
Right. Like, how do we
provide the resources?
Yes, how do we provide
the understanding?
Yeah, the resources and the understanding.
They need to heal and to rebuild their lives.
It's something we as a society need to be more mindful of.
I agree.
And I think the show does a good job of highlighting that issue. But going back to the political intrigue, one of the things that I found so captivating about season 2 is how they portray those like tense negotiations that are happening behind closed doors.
Yes, there's that scene where Kate is trying to broker a deal between these two warring factions.
Right.
And it's like watching a high-stakes poker game.
It is.
Each side trying to bluff their way to a win.
Yeah.
And it gives you this glimpse into the subtle art of diplomacy, the way that words can be just as powerful as weapons.
And the way that like body language and tone of voice and even like the slightest facial expression.
The slightest facial expression.
Can convey so much meaning.
It's fascinating to watch her navigate those delicate situations.
Like this masterclass in negotiation.
It is.
And it reminds us that diplomacy is often about like finding those creative solutions.
Yeah.
Like those win-win scenarios.
Win-win.
That can satisfy everyone's interests.
Finding that common ground.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's definitely not as simple as just like issuing ultimatums.
No.
And like flexing military muscle.
It's much more nuanced than that.
It is much more nuanced, but sometimes even the best negotiators can't prevent things
happen
from escalating.
Yes.
And from what I've gathered from the sources, season 2 doesn't shy away from showing us the messy realities of war and conflict.
There's that scene where Kate visits a refugee camp.
Yes.
And it's just this stark reminder of the human cost of these political conflicts.
We see families torn apart, homes destroyed,
lives shattered.
For
violence.
And it's like this powerful image.
It is.
That stays with you long after the episode ends.
It really does.
It makes you think about like the ripple effects of our actions and how even like seemingly distant conflicts can have a profound impact
Yes, they can.
On people's lives.
On people's lives around the world.
Around the world. And it challenges us to consider, like, our own role in addressing these issues.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what can we do as individuals to, like, promote peace and understanding?
We promote peace.
To support those who are suffering.
Yeah.
And to prevent future conflicts from arising.
That's a great question.
Yeah, and those are big questions.
They are.
But they're worth asking.
They're worth asking.
And I think the show does a great job of, like, prompting those kinds of reflections.
Absolutely.
Without being, like, preachy.
Right.
Or overly didactic.
It's not about offering easy answers.
Right.
Or simplistic solutions.
It's about presenting the complexities of these issues.
Yeah.
And inviting viewers to engage with them.
On their own terms.
On their own terms. Yes, speaking of complex issues, can we talk about how the show handles the theme of betrayal?
Oh.
Because it seems like
nobody's safe.
Is safe from suspicion in season 2.
No one is safe from suspicion.
Trust is
it's a fragile commodity.
Fragile commodity.
In this world.
Right.
And we see characters questioning each other's motives. Yeah. Second-guessing their alliances.
Wondering who they can really rely on.
There's a scene where Kate discovers that someone close to her has been leaking information to the press.
Yeah.
And it just, like, rocks.
It's a huge
her world.
Yeah.
It makes her realize that even at
the top,
the highest echelons of power, you can never really know.
You never really know.
Who's on your side.
You never know who to trust.
Right.
It's a classic theme in these political dramas.
Right.
But the diplomat handles it in such a nuanced and suspenseful way.
You're never quite sure who to trust.
You're never sure.
And it keeps you guessing until the very end.
Until the very end.
Which is what makes it so addicting to watch.
It's addictive.
You're constantly on the edge of your seat.
You are?
Trying to figure out who's playing who.
Who's playing who?
And what their end game is.
Exactly.
Right. And the performances are so good.
They're so good.
That you can never quite tell if a character's being sincere.
Or if they're just putting on a show.
Are they being genuine, or is it a performance?
It's like everyone is wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And you have to read between the lines.
You do.
To figure out what they're really thinking. That's
what makes the show so intellectually stimulating.
Yes.
As well as emotionally engaging.
Right. You're not just passively watching. You're like actively...
You're in it.
Trying to decipher.
You're trying to decipher.
The characters' motives. And predict what they're going to do next.
It's like solving a puzzle.
It is.
Except the stakes are much higher.
And the consequences of getting it wrong are far more dramatic.
Speaking of drama...
Let's talk about that explosive confrontation between Kate and Hal.
Yes.
In the penultimate episode.
That scene was intense.
Oh my gosh, that scene was intense.
Oh, yeah.
I was like literally holding my breath.
It was a lot.
The entire time.
Yeah. They finally lay it all out there.
They lay it all out there.
And it's clear that their relationship is at a breaking point. All those years of unspoken resentments.
Right.
Buried secrets.
Yeah.
Conflicting ambitions.
It all comes pouring out.
It all comes pouring out.
And it's heartbreaking to watch because
it is.
You can see how much they still care about each other.
Yes, you can.
But they're also so deeply wounded.
They are.
By the things they've done and the things that they've left.
The things they haven't said.
Unsaid.
Yeah.
And then Hal drops that bombshell.
He does.
About his involvement in exposing Vice President Penn's role in that aircraft carrier attack.
Which leads to
the president's fatal heart attack.
Right.
And Grace Penn's unexpected, ascension to the presidency.
Yeah, talk about a power play.
Talk about a power play.
Wow.
But what was Hal's motive?
What was he doing?
Was he trying to help Kate? Or was he just trying to, sabotage Grace?
It's a great question.
It's a question that the show leaves open to interpretation.
And that's one of the things I love about it.
Me too.
It doesn't give you all the answers.
Right.
It makes you think for yourself.
It challenges you to think for yourself and to come to your own conclusions.
Exactly.
And that ambiguity is what makes it so much more than just a typical political thriller.
Yeah.
It's a character-driven drama that explores, the gray areas of morality, the complexities of human relationships.
Yes.
And the unintended consequences of our actions.
It really is. It's a show that stays with you.
It does.
Long after the credits have rolled.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about the world.
It does.
In a different way.
In a different way. Okay. So as we head into the final part of our conversation, we'll delve into that explosive season 2 finale.
We will.
And try to unpack all of its...
all twists and turns.
Twists and turns. All right. That season 2 finale, I'm still really...
It was a masterclass in suspense.
I know, with all the twists and turns.
It really was.
That final scene with Kate and Grace facing off in the Oval Office, wow.
Talk about a power dynamic shift.
Talk about a power dynamic shift.
It really shows you how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
In the world of politics.
A few episodes ago, she was the ambassador trying to, prevent a war.
Yeah.
Navigate the,
absolutely.
complexities of British society. And now she's standing toe-to-toe.
With the most powerful person.
The most powerful person.
In the
world. And it's not just a symbolic shift either.
No.
Sources are saying that Grace offers Kate a pretty significant position.
I heard that too.
Secretary of State.
Wow.
Almost like she's trying to co-opt Kate's diplomatic skills and her global reputation.
So it's a very shrewd move on Grace's part.
For her own agenda.
By bringing Kate into her inner circle, she neutralizes a potential rival.
Right.
But it also puts Kate in a very precarious position.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because how can she trust Grace after everything that's happened?
Exactly.
And what about her relationship with Hal?
Yeah.
He's the one who essentially orchestrated Grace's rise to power.
Yeah. It's a very complicated situation.
Even if it wasn't intentional.
It is a very complicated situation.
Yeah, it creates this really complex triangle of power and ambition.
Right. Each character is trying to figure out their next move.
Right.
How to protect their own interests.
Yeah. And that final shot of Kate standing in the Oval Office.
Yes.
Contemplating Grace's offer.
It's brilliant.
It's left deliberately
Overtly ambiguous.
You're left wondering, will she accept the position and become like this
right.
key player?
A key player.
In Grace's administration, or will she walk away?
Will she walk away?
And choose her own path and potentially become Grace's, most formidable opponent?
What will she do?
It's a cliffhanger ending that's both satisfying and frustrating.
Yes, I agree.
It gives you closure on some of the storylines, but it also opens up a whole new set of possibilities.
I know it does.
For the future. And it just perfectly captures the show's central theme.
It does.
Like in the world of diplomacy, nothing is ever truly resolved.
That's right.
There's always
some
new challenges, new alliances,
new threats
emerging on the horizon.
That's the nature of it.
Right. And that's what makes The Diplomat such a brilliant show.
I agree.
It's entertaining, it's thought-provoking, and it's endlessly fascinating.
It's really well done.
It challenges you to think critically about the world, about the nature of power, and about the choices we make.
Right.
When we're faced with these seemingly impossible dilemmas.
And it leaves you wanting more.
It does.
You want to see what happens next.
Yeah.
How are they going to navigate these new challenges?
So to all of you out there who haven't caught up with Season 2 of The Diplomat.
I know I sound like a broken record, but
I highly recommend it.
I highly recommend it.
You will not be disappointed.
You will not.
It is a must-watch for anyone who loves political thrillers, character-driven dramas.
Yes.
Or just great storytelling.
I agree. And on that note, we'll wrap up our discussion.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.